I'm Tim Bass, and I'm a part-time superhero. Players drive story, plain and simple. At least that's the way it's supposed to be in my experience. When you start to have problems self-starting, that's when it's time for other players to step up and do the things that they're interested in accomplishing. Conversation. A simple topic, or at least it should be. Most conversations in role-playing games are between players and NPCs. Players take the lead since they are the ones that make decisions. You run into problems when players want the NPCs to come to them and prod them for conversation. That can happen sometimes, but most of the time it's in new games or when players are in a new area of the game world, and the NPCs just aren't fleshed out enough or important enough to take the lead. After all, why would you design an NPC not knowing if they're going to be important or not? In most game systems, it takes too long to stat something out to not use it. So let's get back to the players being trifling little bitches and wanting so many railroad tracks that they can't even nut up enough to talk to someone in the game world. A person that doesn't even exist being talked to by a person that doesn't exist is somehow scary. Worse is when you can't even get past your own narcissism to admit that you might be the one causing the problem. Instead, you hide behind complaints. The story is too complicated, or you don't like politics, or you don't get subtlety. When the GM breaks character and tells you what the point of what he just said was, it's not his fault anymore. Sometimes the mystery is just going to be beyond you. Perhaps it's time to put down the phone and stop playing Candy Crush for a few minutes. That slides into the next issue I have with this. If you can't walk up to an NPC and talk to them about something that interests your character, it's probably not because you're scared of the GM giving you consequences. It's probably because you're boring and don't know your character. Role-playing is and always will be a situation simulator. Situations are about finding creative solutions to interesting problems that come up due to your actions. So you have to do things. You can't hide from the game world because you're afraid of what might come up. So if you don't want to self-start, the GM will punish you. But not because you really did anything wrong, but because you're wasting his time. If you aren't there to be interesting, go home. I understand that you're lonely and have been living in your mom's basement for years since you failed to launch, but don't take that out on the rest of us. We just want to spend a few hours doing things that no one can do in real life. Rethink your life. Maybe find Jesus. Get enough self-respect to do a decent job at something. Don't be a suck player. I'm Tim Bass, and I don't care about your unicorn instead of personality.